Hello everybody, Tony Pellegrino here with GenRight Off-Road, and today we're here to talk about our low-cost YJ budget build. And we're ready to get started on the next phase, and I wanted to talk to you guys about some of the reasons that I've chosen to make some changes back here. I'd like to go with the higher clearance bumper that GenRight makes versus this add-on tow hitch bumper that hangs down below the frame, and this old tube style that was chrome. All the chrome was peeling, so I painted it black just to kind of clean it up a little bit. In the process, I'm going to be adding a heavy-duty skid plate to the gas tank. I'm also going to add our fuel pump access panel. To do any one of these three upgrades, you're going to need to be able to drop the tank down. That takes a floor jack. It's not very hard. It's just one of those things that to get the hoses off of a stock plastic tank that's 30 years old, you're going to want to be very careful and not do that any more times than you absolutely have to. Let's go over some of the basic hand tools you're going to need to do this job. You're going to need a 1/2 inch ratchet, a 3/8 ratchet, a few wrenches in the right sizes, an assortment of sockets in both 3/8 and 1/2 inch, an extension, some Allen wrenches, a rivet gun. You're going to need a file to break off some of the edges that are sharp. I always grease all the bolts. You've seen me do that before. And you're going to need a jigsaw to cut a hole in the floor for that fuel pump access plate. Before you just get underneath your Jeep and pull the 7 bolts out and drop down the gas tank, don't forget it's hooked up right here. So take off the gas cap, remove the screws that hold this on, and down inside here there's 2 hose clamps that clamp this to plastic fittings coming off the tank. Be very careful. These are old and brittle and you don't want to break that or your tank is junk. So get those rubber hoses carefully off of there, and then you'll be able to lower the tank down without anything hitting. All right, so after the tank is out of the way, we're going to peel up the carpet and we're going to mark out where we can install this new plate. What this allows you to do is access the fuel pump, the lines, the wiring, everything on the top of the gas tank without having to drop the tank down. All right, so we lined up this hole right over the top of the hole that was used for the factory seat belts, and we're going to drill that out and reuse the threaded bung in the floor cargo area. So I've drawn my line, and now what I'm going to do is go just slightly wider with my cut. When you're cutting this hole, make sure that you cut it a little smaller than you need. If you cut it too big, you're really going to be in a world of hurt. So what you want to do is, it may take a few times, but fit this in here until everything fits nice. You can see how it fits right in between these 2 ribs, and then I got everything to fit nice. Now in my case, I was trying to salvage this seatbelt hole, but I can't go back any further here because there's a pinch seam right here for this rear box. So I took it back as far as I could, and then I'm just going to notch this a little bit to keep my seatbelt bolt there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wire brush this whole surface nice and clean. Then I'm going to paint this edge so we don't get any rust. Then I'm going to put the plate down, drill all the 1/8 inch holes, lift it up, do a big bead of silicone, put it down, and rivet it into place. As you saw yesterday, we added a bead of silicone around here and then riveted down this access plate frame. We call this the frame, and let it dry overnight. Then I wanted to use my factory seat belts. So the center position, there's a bolt with a nut welded into the tub. I trimmed around that so I could put the bolt back in, and then I took the the lid, and I trim that too, so it slides around that as well. And then that allows me to put the bolts in and button this up. Then you get all your bolts in, you simply cover it back up with your carpet, and you can flip your seat down, put your passengers back in here. Basically, you have all your cargo area, really nice, and when you need access, you just flip it up and pop the cover. All right, now that we've got the access panel fully installed, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the receiver style rear bumper, which includes welding in 2 pieces right back here behind. This is a very thin center cross member, rear cross member. So we're gonna weld in some pieces here, and then all of that bolts through and clamps it so it takes out the spring. The welded piece is gonna go onto the frame rail, and this really helps to stiffen up the whole assembly. Okay, when you first grab this bracket, there's 2 sides to it, and you'll notice this one's got a step. It's to get over this bump in the factory cross member. So when you put this in here, it allows this outer plate to come all the way flush with this side frame rail, which is where we're gonna weld to. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna clean off any dirt, rust, everything that we can right where we're gonna weld. You've got to loosen these 2 cross member bolts in order to jack up the back and slip the bumper plate underneath. All right, using a floor jack with some wood to distribute the load underneath, I carefully slid out these body mount pucks that were in here, because the new bumper goes over the top and then these slide in on top of that. All right, so we need to cut out a square here in the middle for the receiver hitch to fit through the factory cross member. So I'm measuring over 14.5 inches from both sides, and then I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out across here. Touch it up with a little paint so it doesn't rust. All right, now it's time to slide on the bumper. If your rear cross member was rusty or anything, now's a good time to touch it up before you slide this on. All right, once the 2 pucks are in place, go ahead and lower it back down, and then you can put in the body mount bolts. So the short course one goes on the bottom of the bumper plate. These go on the outside 2 holes, and these go on the inside 2 holes. All right, so when I said outside 2 holes, this is the outside 2 holes, inside 2 holes, and bottom right here. All right, we've got our factory gas tank out. These are made of plastic. The factory skid plate is very, very thin. We're gonna transfer this to a GenRight 3/16 thick. You reuse all the straps. They fit back in here and lock in and hold the gas tank down. There's even a piece here that helps protect it from the heat of the exhaust. You put your straps back in, strap it down, and then this whole thing can go up underneath, and the gas tank is well protected. So the factory carriage bolts are gonna get replaced with a longer version that we supply you with the bumper plate. These are the 4 that go along the back to hold up the back of the skid plate. It's the same bolt pitch and everything, just a little bit longer to go through all the new thicker layers. We're gonna recap what we've done on this stage of the YJ build. We installed our fuel pump access plate. This gives you complete access to the entire top of the tank, all the fittings, all the electrical, everything you'd need to get to on the top of your fuel tank. We installed our license plate relocation to the center of the rear tire. It's a simple bracket that just goes on before you put the tire on, and then the license plate slides in. The next thing we did was installed our heavy duty rear bumper plate with toe points, and in this case it's also got a 2-inch receiver hitch and a step built into it. Then we installed our heavy duty gas tank skid plate as part of this package to give us more ground clearance and a better departure angle coming off trail obstacles. I should note that when you put that gas tank back up, you want to be careful not to smash any hoses or any electrical. So just do that very carefully as you get that back up and then reconnect all the hoses. Otherwise, this has been a great set of upgrades for this vehicle, and stay tuned for our next round of upgrades on this YJ build.